I want to make sure we spend some time on regulatory readiness. I think we certainly have to have a conversation about the regulatory landscape as it impacts manufacturing. And so, um, I think that one of the biggest mistakes that companies make is treating them as separate conversations. And in fact, our second poll question talked about, which manufacturing challenge is most likely to slow the cell and gene therapy programs transition into the clinic. And 50% of our audience said alignment across CMC, regulatory, and financing timelines. And so perhaps we can address that as we head into our regulatory discussion here. And Emily, I would like to start with you. So, in addition to maybe what our audience is seeing about that alignment across CMC, regulatory, and financing timelines, which I think is very well noted, how early should regulatory and manufacturing strategies be aligned? What are your thoughts?
I mean, really early. I think, and by really early, I think I would even say when you're initially at the conceptual point of the asset, because if you understand your asset and what the regulatory requirements are, and you haven't taken advantage of interact meetings or achieving RMAT designation, which really allows you to correspond with the FDA as quickly as possible, you will save tremendous amount of time and money. And I'll use an example. There's a new designation called RDEP, and it literally says your science is sound. You have a really rare indication. There's only, X amount of people in the US. You can do a single arm clinical trial. You would have one patient, right? And if you don't think and know about that early on, you could spend so much time and money developing a clinical trial that you don't even need to for that phase. And then when you get to phase 1 and you have data and you dose patients, like financing becomes so much easier down the road. So at the beginning, like at the very early concept of your asset, I would understand what kind of regulatory pathway is already potentially laid out for me and what help can I get, because it can save you so much time and money down the end. And it may impact how your process is designed. To Sugu's point, it's very technically heavy, and understanding what the requirements are, which can be very different for an advanced therapy, may change the modality that you use, right? I have seen the same disease being treated from a cell therapy, from a gene therapy, from an immunotherapy. It's all the same thing. And, so there's absolutely more ways to attack a problem, and understanding your regulatory pathway, I think, will help you make that decision.
Excellent. Thank you for the actionable information behind the term early, because I think the term early it's kind of thrown around in our space. So I appreciate the actual meat behind the response. Sugu, what does true regulatory readiness look like? So from the manufacturing side, before the program even reaches first in human.
Well, I think it's a lot of things that we talked about, right? You want to be able to have your process locked in, you understand your process, you understand the analytics are in place, the tight mechanism of action, you understand the variability that's coming with the raw materials, and you have a quality and quality readiness as well. And you can generate a data package that is actually defensible, and you can actually make product. We didn't talk a lot about manufacturing success rate. We talked about the others. I just want to call out that piece. In autologous cell therapy, regulatory readiness requires also to be able to make product for literally every patient. So you want to have a very high manufacturing success rate. It's critical because these are personalized medicines, but it's not easy because, like I said, the variability is high from one patient to another patient, and you can't keep changing the process for every patient, right? So you have to have the same process that can actually accommodate the variability from everywhere. And the importance of manufacturing success rate is, if you just take a biologics company, they can treat 100% of their patients with a 90% success rate, manufacturing success rate, because you lose the other batches, but you still have 90% of the batches that you distribute to the entire population. But in autologous cell therapy, if you have a 90% success rate, 100 out of 1,000 patients are not even getting your drug. They're not even getting their cells back. So that's why the manufacturing success rate is extremely important. And that goes completely streamlined to, again, in my opinion, what regulatory readiness is. So since I haven't had a chance to talk about the importance of that, I thought I'll make that point clear.
Yeah, I'm really glad you did. I think we could dedicate an entire hour just to autologous cell therapy from a manufacturing and regulatory perspective. So I'm glad you brought it up
Yes.
and went deeper into it. Okay, so before we wrap up here, I want to do a little bit of time on some kind of, forward-looking statements, not being futurist, but just kind of, 3 to 5 year type of thing. What will the next few years look like and require cell and gene therapy teams that want to stay agile, scalable, and clinically ready? And so, given that kind of buildup, Sugu, what manufacturing capabilities will matter most over the next few years from your perspective?
Thank you for the question. I'll be a little brief because we're running to the end of the hour. So you want capabilities that at the end of the day maximize your manufacturing success rate. And that also means you have a product that's defensible and that's also comparable from one side to another side if you have a distributed network. So your processes need to be, or the manufacturer capabilities need to be platformed, modular manufacturing. So something like a core automation platform with optional equipment to enable multiple products so that you're not changing the platform every single time. And then also integrated analytics, because real-time decision-making is also becoming important. Capabilities that balance turnaround time with safety, efficacy, release, and manufacturability. Because many times people forget that because you think you're developing each product by itself, but you may have a manufacturing network. So when you're thinking about manufacturing capabilities of the future, you want to make sure that the process, it actually has capabilities that the processes are designed to. And then the digital data infrastructure is also important for comparability and tech transfers. You want to be able to move data quickly around the manufacturing network and also avail any evolving artificial intelligence tools. And then operational excellence is also important. The manufacturing capability should be scalable, should be trainable, so that we go back to, again, the North Star, which is enabling a high manufacturing success rate for the product that you intend to make. So those are some of the things that are going to be required for future.
Absolutely agreed. And when you mentioned AI, that's another, a whole other topic we could dedicate an hour to. But excellent information. Thank you, Sugu. Emily, my last question for you is, what should cell and gene therapy leaders prioritize now so that manufacturing doesn't become a bottleneck later? I hate to use the word bottleneck, another overused term, but everybody gets it. So
Yeah. I think we hit on a lot of it, right? So CMC and understanding a strategy. I'll say again, strategy, because I just feel like so many people don't really think past phase one, right? And you should be thinking past phase one. You should always be looking at what our future self should be. What would I do in phase two and phase three in commercial? Because it's going to help in any way. It's going to help you fundraise, right? And that's really what it's about. And understanding how we spend the cash, how we responsibly spend the cash, how we continue to get the cash, because it might not be fun to think about as much as the data, the technical and the science, but that's what the patients need. They need us to be able to deliver it. That's what everybody wants. So I think the science has come a long way. I think we're getting way more robust. We're getting platforms. We're doing all that. But how are we reducing cost of goods? And how are you sort of making sure that you, as a leader, are going to be responsible enough to get it past whatever milestone you need to continue to deliver? So think sustainably, and in how do we sustain our cash, or how do we make sure that we get cash? And that can come in many different ways. And that's why I keep harping on CMC, because that ultimately impacts how you deliver it. Because the more responsible we are, the more likely we are to get additional funding, which helps us get it to more clinics, more people, and more patients. Never too early.